This is how I'd learn medical device sales if I could start all over. So I'm Matt Moran, an area sales manager overseeing multiple territories in the Southeast. I've been in medical device sales for about 4 years now. So I started as a territory manager and worked my way up. I learned about medical device sales through YouTube in 2022, and I started watching videos from reps who are making great money working with surgeons and having a real impact on patient outcomes. So the more I researched, the more I realized that this was exactly what I wanted to do. I interviewed current medical device sales reps, and every single one of them loved their job, and that was big for me. That sealed the deal for me, actually, and I got my first position after just 2 interviews by tracking down the hiring manager's phone number and calling him over and over to prove that I was serious. So I started at $60,000 a year, but the earning potential in the field is massive. Some of the top reps can make $500,000 a year, and usually takes 10 to 20 years to get there. I now work as an area sales manager responsible for multiple states, and I can also help others break into the industry through coaching and content. But before I can talk about what I've done differently, let's go back and figure out how I got here in the first place, and way more importantly, what the fastest path is for you. And if you're looking to break into medical device sales, you've got to start by learning the clinical foundations. So this is what we're going to break into here in a second. So here's what most people don't get about medical device sales. So it's not just sales, it's clinical sales. So you're not selling software or advertising. You're standing in an operating room most of the time, right next to the surgeon who's performing different surgeries, and they're asking you technical questions about implant sizes, surgical approaches, and anatomical landmarks. So if you don't have that clinical foundation, you're not going to get hired, period. So what do I mean by clinical foundation? So I'm talking about 3 core areas. So first, you need to understand anatomy. So you need to know the musculoskeletal system, the cardiovascular system, and the nervous system at least. So when a surgeon, for example, says that they're doing an ALIF procedure, you need to know that that's an anterior lumbar interbody fusion. So you need to understand the difference between what vertebrae they're working on, what nerves are nearby, and why that surgical approach matters. So that is baseline. So I was an athletic trainer before this, so that helped give me the foundation. So I studied anatomy for years, learned how to talk with physicians, and understood injury recovery from off the get-go. So that knowledge translated directly into medical device sales, but here's the good news is you don't need a 4-year degree to learn this. You just need to stay focused, hands-on training, and know your anatomy and terminology. That's actually going to matter in the operating room. So second, you need to know medical terminology. Proximal, distal, lateral, medial, anterior, posterior. These aren't just fancy words, they're how healthcare professionals actually communicate. So if you can't speak the language, you can't build trust with the surgeons and the clinical staff. And third, you need to understand who's in the healthcare system. So you're not just selling to surgeons, you're working with physicians, assistants, nurse practitioners, OR nurses, scrub techs, and sterile processing departments. So each person has a different role, and you need to understand how to handle those relationships. You also need to understand the operating room itself. So where's the sterile field? What can you touch? What can't you touch? And how do you talk with a surgeon? So without even being disruptive. So these are things you only learn through exposure or solid training. The clinical foundation is what separates medical device sales from every other sales role, and it's why their job pays so well, and it's why breaking in can feel like a nightmare. But once you have that foundation, everything else starts to click. So once you understand the clinical side, you need to learn how sales actually works. So in the medical device world, because it's a whole other ballgame compared to other areas, medical device sales operates in 2 modes. So business to business and business to consumer. So business to business side, you're selling to hospitals, surgery centers, and physician practices. You're dealing with procurement departments, getting credentialed through systems like RepTrax and VendorMate, and building relationships with decision makers. This process can take months, so you're not closing deals in a single meeting. Instead, you're going to be playing the long game. But on the business to consumer side, especially in areas like durable medical equipment, you're influencing patient decisions. A physician recommends your back or knee brace, and the patient chooses your product. So you're supporting both the doctor and the patient in that whole process. So either way, the sales cycle's long and the relationships are deep and the stakes are high. So you're impacting patient lives, not just trying to hit a quota. So here's what the sales process actually looks like. It starts with prospecting. So you're cold calling physician offices, cold walking into surgery centers, and sending emails to schedulers trying to get FaceTime with surgeons. You're asking for lunch meetings, offering your product to bring them in for a test, and positioning yourself as a resource and not just a salesperson. So once you get that meeting, you shift into discovery mode. So you need to find out things like what products they're currently using, what challenges are they facing, what do they like and dislike about their current vendors. So you're going to be gathering that intel so you can position your solution the right way. Then comes the demo or trial. So in medical device sales, surgeons want to try your product in a real case usually before they commit to it. So you're coordinating with the operating room, getting your instruments and implants into the facility, and supporting that first case. If it goes well, you're building momentum. If it doesn't, you're fixing problems and adjusting for the next time. So finally, you're closing and servicing. So even after a physician agrees to use your product, you're still showing up to cases, managing your inventory, handling billing, and making sure that everything runs smoothly. The relationship usually doesn't end when they say yes. Usually it's just the beginning of everything. So you also need to understand account prioritization. So not every surgeon's worth the same amount of time. So some do 2 cases a month where others do 20, and you need to know how to organize your territory effectively based on their needs. So focus on the accounts that'll drive you the most revenue at the time, and you need to know the tools. So most medical device companies use CRM systems like Salesforce to track accounts and opportunities. So they'll use credentialing platforms to get access to the hospitals. You use inventory management software to track what's in your car, what's in the hospital, and what needs to be restocked. The sales process in medical device sales is complicated, but it's also systematic. So once you understand the framework, you can apply it to any territory and product and any specialty. So here's where to start. So here's the problem. Most people try to break into medical sales. They go about it learning stuff completely wrong. They'll think, I'll go get a biology degree or a business degree and that'll be enough. But here's the reality to this is there's a lot of those. A biology degree teaches you cellular biology and genetics, and it's not the hands-on anatomy or soft skills you need to really know in the OR. A business degree teaches you marketing, theory, and accounting, so it's not exactly how to cold call surgeons or support any kind of surgeon cases. So I've experienced this firsthand myself in athletic training. That did give me a good degree of anatomy, but it didn't teach me anything else about sales, territory management, or how to handle the medical device industry. So I had to figure that out on my own through research, network, and trial and error, as most people do. But here's the other problem is that college is extremely expensive. So that's why I started to partner with Course Careers. So, there is a course here with no college degree that's going to teach you exactly really what it looks like, what companies look for, what they're hiring for, and how to position yourself as a strong candidate. So even if you're coming from a completely different background, I'll include the link to the free course down below. So that'll give you a realistic picture of whether this career is right for you. If you decide to move forward, the full course teaches you everything, anatomy and medical term, all that stuff you need to know, the sales process, how to find leads, how to handle the operating room and work with surgeons, how to use CRM systems, credentialing platforms, and most importantly, how to network and land interviews, even if you have zero connections in the industry. The reason companies want you to know this stuff before you apply is very simple, actually. So they don't want to have to train you from scratch. They want people who can hit the ground running, support cases on day one, and build trust with physicians straight away. So if you show up to an interview already speaking the language and understanding what kind of role you're in, you're probably 10 steps ahead of everyone else. So that's exactly what this course is going to teach you below if you decide to move forward with it. Now, once you've got the basics of medical device sales down, you're starting to, or get ready to build credibility and showing that you're serious about the career of medical device sales. So medical device sales doesn't work like other industries where you build a portfolio of projects or case studies. You can't exactly walk into an interview with a portfolio of surgeries that you've supported because you're probably not going to have any yet. But what you can do is show that you've done the work to prepare yourself clinically and professionally. So my advice would be start shadowing current medical reps if they'll allow you to do it. Because if you can, reach out on LinkedIn, explain that you're trying to break into the industry, and ask if you can shadow them for a day. Some will say no, most might even say no, but the ones you say yes will be worth it. So most reps love helping people if you can show them that you're genuinely interested, and you'll get to see what the job is actually like. So start asking good questions with them, build relationships in the industry. Excuse me. And if shadowing isn't an option, then shift your focus to informational interviews. Set up 15 to 20-minute calls with them. Ask them about their day and their company and how they broke in. So while you're doing this, you're naturally learning more about the industry and the products and the challenges that reps face. That knowledge makes you much stronger as a candidate when you start interviewing. So another huge advantage is using any healthcare experience that you already have. So if you worked as an EMT, nurse, medical assistant, or like me, an athletic trainer, that clinical background is gold for you. So even if you worked in a hospital or non-clinical role, you understand the environment, the pace, and the professionalism that's going to be required for this industry. So just make sure you're highlighting that and experience in your resume and interviews. So you should also be studying anatomy and surgical techniques on your own. So watch surgical videos on YouTube, read about common procedures in the specialty that you want to get into and that you're targeting. So learn the instruments and implants that are used. So the more you know, the more confident you'll sound when you're talking to hiring managers and reps. So here's a pro tip: copy what other people are doing. So if you see a successful rep's LinkedIn profile, study how they position their experience. If you read a great cold email template, adapt it to your own outreach strategy. So you don't need to reinvent this wheel necessarily, but learn from what other people already know and apply it to your own job search. So the goal here isn't to have a perfect portfolio, it's to show hiring managers that you've done your homework and to understand the role and you're ready to learn and contribute from day one. When you're starting to build your network, there's a couple of things that I wish I would have known earlier and been able to been a little bit more strategic about. I probably would have asked for help earlier. I eventually got aggressive with networking, but I could have started that approach from day one instead of waiting until I was deep into the job. So here's what actually worked for me and led me to getting a job just after the 2 interviews. So initially, after applying, I tracked down the hiring manager's phone number and called him directly. So not once, but multiple times. I was annoying this guy a bunch. I wanted to prove that I was serious about the role and that I wasn't going to give up right on him. So that persistence is probably what got me the job. So here's my advice: don't just apply and wait. So after you submit an application, reach out to someone in that company. Find the recruiter on LinkedIn, find the hiring manager, find a current rep in that territory and send them a message or call them. Or you can call them directly if you can and let them know why you're a good fit for the role. Tell them about your clinical background, your understanding of the sales process, and your willingness to work hard and learn. And most of all, hiring managers are looking for people who are coachable, persistent, genuinely interested in the role. If you could show those qualities for your outreach, you're going to stand out. If you're interested in learning more about how to do this outreach well, I could teach you that. The course can teach you that. It's going to give you the exact templates of what to use, so it kind of takes out the guesswork for you that way. Another strategy I recommend is reaching out to current reps and asking for advice. So don't just ask them for a job right away. That actually probably will never work right away. So ask them, what they like about their experience and their company and what they're looking for in new reps, and just start building the relationships first. If they like you and see that you're serious, they'll often refer you or give you tips on how to get hired. So lastly, if you can, look for local industry meetups and medical device trade shows. You'll find events you didn't even know existed, and these are great opportunities to meet reps, learn about companies, and get your foot in the door. So even if you're not ready to apply just yet, showing up and introducing yourself can open a lot of doors down the line. Networking in medical device sales is everything. So the whole industry runs on relationships. The more you know, the more opportunities you'll have. So you can start building those relationships now, and don't be afraid to be persistent and direct. That's what worked for me, and I'm almost positive it's what's going to work for you as well. So in the end here's what to do. Start with your clinical foundation, learn anatomy, medical terminology, and how the healthcare system works. Then build your sales process foundations. So you'll need to understand business to business and business to consumer selling, the sales cycle, and how to manage accounts and relationships. From there, get structured training. So don't try and piece it together on your own. Use something like me. I'm more than readily available, or the Course Careers course. So we're going to do that all for you. And finally, you need to network aggressively. So reach out to the hiring managers, connect with reps, and don't be afraid to be persistent. If you do those things, you'll be in a better position than I was when I started. And if you want to get started, check out the free Course Careers intro course. I'm going to put that down below. That might help you out a little bit, and I'll walk you through everything you need to know about breaking into medical device sales.